I'd like to take a few moments with you to share a letter that I received recently. This is a letter from a Turkish woman named Müştaba Şanlı, who was left behind to raise five kids and whose husband was arrested on terrorism charges and in connection to the July 15 coup attempt. She says in the letter that her husband, Orhan, is a history graduate and who started a successful business and who has no relationship with politics whatsoever, let alone being a part of a plan to overthrow an elected government. And this is a heart-wrenching story, and I think it's important to highlight these kind of stories because this is the hidden face, yet the most painful part of the massive crackdown and relentless purge that have been going on in Turkey for quite a long time. And I think it's particularly important to highlight this case is because this mother is going through such a troubled period with her children in trying to explain why their father was jailed. And I think thousands of other mothers or fathers are going through a similar ordeal because they cannot tell their kids why their parents are in jail. These are, 7, 10, 13 years old kids. And Mushtaba has this the most difficult task in explaining to her kids that their father is in jail not because he's a bad guy, but because there's no rule of law in Turkey, because every single person in Turkey can be jailed on ludicrous and funny charges, such as downloading a smartphone messaging app or subscribing to our newspaper. There's no lawyer to defend them, and Mushtaba is really having a very difficult time. And I think this is the centerpiece of her problem with her children. She says she's not even allowed to cry at home because then the kids will know that there's something wrong with their father, that their father is in trouble. She told her children that Orhan, her husband, is on a business trip and he will make a lot of money and then he will come back home as soon as possible. And of course, it's very difficult to explain those kids why they cannot talk to their father or visit their father or why their father cannot visit them in Turkey. They tell their mother that, look, dad went to a business trip in the past and we talked on the phone. We made a video phone call almost every day. Why can't we do the same in the past 2 months that he was away? And I think that's a pretty devastating moment for me when she said in the letter that, I just ran out of excuses. Can you imagine you have like 7, 10, 13 years old children to whom you have to explain what happened in Turkey, why their father is in jail? And then there's a 3 years old kid, Sena, who was a smiling, little cute toddler who turned into an irritating, unhappy, snobby kid. And she says, whenever the door is knocked, she just runs to the door, thinking that it's her father. And when she realizes that it's not her father, she asks here, who will compensate for the disappointment in her face when she sees that that's not her father? She doesn't understand what it means to be away working or to be on a business trip. She doesn't have that concept of time and space. She keeps crying and asking where her father is. And it's a very difficult time for that kid and for the mother and her siblings. And then they have a 6-month-old baby. And who knows when Orhan will be out? In 5 years? 3 years? 7 years? What happens in like 6 years when Orhan is out and that kid is going to school and then another man is coming and claiming that he's her father? Can you imagine how difficult it is for that family to go through such a period of time where their father is a successful businessman and then goes to jail just for nothing. And I think Mujtaba is so brave woman that she keeps telling throughout the letter how strong she is, how brave she is, and how in the face of relentless pressure by the government, she stands firm. She stands stronger than ever. She says she needs to be father all the time for those 5 kids. And I think it's, those of you who did not go through a similar tragedy, I think it's very difficult for them to understand that. It's an intense grief when we lose somebody we love. I lost my father back in February, and it was an intense grief for a couple of weeks, of course. But whenever you lose somebody whom you love, but at the same time with whom you lived for many years, I think it's very difficult because everything reminds you of him or her. And in one paragraph, this is the last paragraph, and I want to conclude with that. She says, I just want to read that paragraph to you. It's a very emotional one. She says, well, it's been 15 years that I was married to Orhan. He was my everything. I did not only lose my husband on October 26th, but also everything that was meaningful to me in life. Every time I make tea, I remember the time I drank with him. Every time I go to groceries, I remember the time we went to the shopping together. Every time I need a repair at home, it strikes me when I realize that he was the one who took care of this kind of stuff. Every night I go to bed alone. I wake up alone. And I have no idea until when I will be alone. This is not only the story of Mujtaba. This is the story of tens of thousands of families in Turkey. And as a journalist, as a concerned person about what's going on in Turkey, and as someone who believes that there's no one, absolutely no one, who is documenting the crackdown in Turkey, I will be here every week to make sure that these stories do not go unnoticed and the world is kept informed about what's going on in Turkey. Thank you.